All right, and welcome back to Jeff's Comic Book Corner. We're going to hop right into it, getting into issue 2 of the 2017 run of The Shadow. Now, if you remember, we left off with that med student talking to this guy with third-degree burns all over his body, being like, "You're the Shadow, aren't you?" And him just saying, I don't remember." Well, this issue starts off nowhere near there. We start off, we see this big mansion and just the Shadow's maniacal laughter going. And then we see this really old guy just running up these stairs like, "Oh my God, it's him." And we see his armed guards and they just open up fire. And the second they stop, their eyes are just wide and staring as the Shadow is just literally standing at the bottom of the stairs laughing at them. Cut from there to the guy just running into like his, I guess, library and just like, I don't know, trying to barricade the door while the Shadow walks up the stairs after him, laughing at him. His bodyguard in body armor with a pistol shooting directly at the Shadow's face doesn't do a thing. The Shadow pulls out his own pistol and just unloads, tearing up this guy's arm. And they start wrestling around the room. Eventually, the guy knocks the Shadow into the fireplace, and the Shadow just grabs one of the flaming logs and throws it in this guy's face. He's like, I'm gonna kill him, I'm gonna fucking kill you. And the Shadow just looks at him and just goes, "Sit. Wait." And this guy just obeys. Literally just drops down, sitting in this burning room, staring, knowing he's gonna die, with this horrified look on his face. The Shadow chases that old guy up onto the roof, and the old guy's like, you don't get to do this. Leave me alone. He's like, it's not your world. And the Shadow's just, I know. And he's just grabs the guy and he pulls him up to him. He's like, I know. As we see the building just explode from the flames. And at this point, we realize it's actually a news program, and they're distressing the footage filmed by police helicopters on local morning social media and all of that. The assault by an unknown assailant in a private residence, and it's this reporter just talking, and she's like, the police haven't identified, or at least they haven't revealed the identity of the victim. We don't know where this leak came from. And the president angrily responded to questions from less reputable news outlets concerning this footage. Very clearly just art mimicking life right there. From there, we cut to, the White House press room. And, people are asking questions of the president, like, President Wyatt, I was wondering if you would comment on rumors that the victim was an advisor of yours. And the president's just like, where did you guys get this ridiculous conspiracy? And his right-hand guy's like, now, if we have any like sensible questions, while the reporter keeps like trying to be like, no, this is a respectable source. Is the executive branch, are you guys under attack? And the guy's just like, oh, blah, blah, clickbait, fake news, no. And he keeps just very clearly talking down and patronizing this woman. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Maybe until you get some manners. You're just very rude, And now we've got like Secret Service leading this journalist who's asking very reasonable questions out of the room. From there, we cut back to the hospital. And we've got we've got our guy with all the burns on him. And we got this med student just sitting there being like, Dracula? God, they all know. And she's just sitting there really annoyed about these politicians just being flippant about obviously reasonable questions. And she's sitting there and she's like, they're saying like this was like last month. Well, it makes sense about the time you came in. While the guy with the burns is just like, I don't know if it's me. She's like, yeah. I mean, I guess if you're ready, we can try. And he's like, you said it would help me remember? And she's, it might. I mean, memory recovery, it's not standard procedure. It's barely a science. I could get into all sorts of trouble. She's like, but, I did learn some techniques, we could give it a try. And he's like, okay, yeah, let's do this, let's go. And she's going to hypnotize him. And if you remember from the last issue, she was saying that's basically what she's majoring in. And he's like, okay, let's go. And she's like, all right, just relax and, sink into yourself. Let your thoughts wander and just allow him just to surface. And she's like, what do you see? And he's like, I don't know. It's not clear. There is something there, but it's almost like a shadow. And so now we cut to him, the shadow. We can tell it's well in the past. It's a very sepia tones image, and we get him narrating now. He's like, what evil looks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows. And he even says it's 1929. And, prohibition's in full swing, but there's still people getting around it. And we see these guys kicking in a door and shooting up a speakeasy. And when I say shooting up, I mean it. They're not just destroying the product. They're killing people. And we've got bodies all over the floor and tables. And these guys just walking through, not caring at all. Clearly mobsters this is just another day at the job for them. And they're like, yeah, I'm sure they'll get the message, And then we see this guy he's literally like, ear to the door listening. He's like, oh God, I think they killed them all. I think they're on the stairs. And then we see the rest of the room. And there's these 4 guys in the room. And then there's this woman, and she's got a baby. And this one guy's like, Bunny, I swear to God, if you don't shut that kid up, I'll shut him up. I'm not going to die because of him. And he's like, this is what I get. This is what I get for letting you work here and da-da-da-da-da. And the woman, Bunny, was like, oh, Freddie, I'm so sorry, Freddie. I'm trying. He's scared. Freddie's just going off on her. And as he's doing this one other guy, real Poindexter looking guy, is like, really, sir? You're threatening an infant? And that guy, Freddie's just like, and these are, again, his words, not mine. He goes, if the whore's kid won't stop wailing, then yeah, I'll shut him up because then we'll all be done for. It's just good sense. And, Mr. Poindexter was like, I only saw 4 men. We can take them on. And Freddie's like, shut up. Dude, they got guns. I don't care how strong you mean. And that guy, who he calls him a word I'm not going to say. I don't care how strong we are. I'm not going up against anyone with guns. I'm not going to throw my life away. And that other guy, who he calls a word that I'm not going to say, is like, dude, I'm just in the band. I don't want to part of any of this. And he calls him Mr. Wyatt. And that's important for one very simple reason. If you remember, earlier in this issue, when they're questioning the president, they question President Wyatt. So it seems pretty clear that we're seeing the president's ancestor in this scene. And so, the president, or the ancestor of the president is like, you think you can talk to me that way, boy? Which I will say that word. So if you couldn't figure out the other word I was saying, it might have something to do with that. Anyway, so he's sitting there and he's yelling at everyone, which, by the way, I would argue might alert the people on the stairs more than the baby crying will. But he's yelling at everyone while Bunny's sitting there. And she's like, sweetie, please be quiet. Please be quiet. And everyone else around is shutting. And then all of a sudden, she just, what? And the shadow is standing next to her, which is already scary. But then the shadow picks up the baby. And if you know anything about the history of the shadow, he's not known for his child rearing skills. So anyway, the shadow picks up the baby and the baby's crying. And then all of a sudden, the shadow looks at the baby and the baby looks at the shadow and goes, wide eyes. And the shadow, and they're like, who are you? What are you doing? And the shadow just says, be quiet. And the baby's quiet. Because remember, one of the shadow's main powers is the ability to completely hypnotize people. So anyway, the shadow quiets the baby down, and then he goes to the door, and he goes out, and they're all like, who the hell was that? What's he doing here? And the Poindexter's like, oh my God, do you hear that? Oh, like there's shots. There's like a tearing sound. What's going on? And then the Poindexter guy's like, I didn't even want to be here. I don't go to places like this. He's like, they made me a professor today at NYU. I was just trying to celebrate. And then the shadow shows back up in the room, and he just goes, I trust you will use your position to shape a better future, James Burnham. And it's really subtle, but the fact that the shadow just knows his name, yeah, that's freaky as hell. And so, that Wyatt guy's like, what are you doing? You got to explain yourself. And the shadow looks at him and goes, Mr. Wyatt, you were lucky to find yourself on the other end of my guns tonight. This place, it's a nest of evil. He goes, I suggest your family finds a new line of work. And he goes, I'll be watching. Don't forget, I'm going to be keeping an eye on you. And it looks like he's getting ready to make his disappearing act when all of a sudden there's a hand on his shoulder. And Bunny's like, hey, mister? She's holding her baby, and she's like, he's only a week old. I haven't even named him. The world's a cruel, scary place. Sometimes there's people like you. And I don't know. People like you can make the world better. And she's like, maybe it'll do something. Would you name him? And then we get this amazing, it's an entire page worth of art. And they do one of the things that I really love in comics, where we have our individual panels, but the image is breaking and stretching through all of them. And it's this horrifying thing. It's this amorphous blob, this white thing stretching. It's a worm, but it's a worm made up of people. It's got this mouth, but along its body, just arms sticking out. And the faces of all these random humans, just terrifying, screaming. And the shadow just goes, call him worthy and pray that he is. And while we're spanning through this page, we cut from the past back to the future. And this man with all the burns, he's like, Mary, I think something's wrong. I think something's happening. He's like, I only see bodies. The great shape, it's turning. It's in the depths. And the med student, who we now know is named Mary, she's like, hold on. Okay. And she pulls him out of the hypnosis. She's like, that's enough. That's enough for today, From there, we cut to a gym. And in this gym, we've got Mary. She's talking with someone, and she's talking with her sister. She's like, you know what I hate about this place? And her sister's like, I don't know, misogyny, the body odor. Oh, all the disgusting hairs, the shitty Wi-Fi. What do you hate about this place? And Mary's like, oh, come on, Louisa, put it down. Because, Louisa's on her sister. He's on her phone. And she's like, you might get something out of this. Anyway, so they're just talking. And Louisa says to Mary, like, wow, you're really chipper. You do know we're here for like Sister Bondley time, or whatever. And as she's saying that, we see like some shadowy guys walking up on her. And, Mary, she's doing some gymnastic stuff, and she lands. And as she lands, this just gym bro's walking up. He's like, hey, chicas, did I miss the stretches? And the girls are just like, oh, God. And immediately are like, we're done. Let's go. And so they're walking out. And like Mary says, she says, Mary's first law. Scale of unexpected assholes is inversely proportional to how decent the day's gone so far. Anyway, so her and Louisa are talking, and they're Luis is like, is this because of the release? And Mary's like, huh? And she's like, oh, yeah. And it comes out that the guy from the first issue, the school shooter, the one who went to the insane asylum or the mental hospital, or as Mary calls it, the nut house, he's evidently like getting out, which, oof, that's got to be hard for both of them. Anyway, so they're talking, and Louisa brings up, the shadow. And she's like, oh, God, it's just so crazy. Like, come on, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. And she's like, I saw the footage. Red scarf, black hat. You wouldn't stop talking about him after the shooting. And she's like, it's a thing now. And she shows Louisa shows Mary this website. Just says heknows.com. And evidently people are now leaving comments there, leaving sightings of the shadow, which he hasn't been seen in about a month. But before that was the first time he'd been seen in years. And we get some crazy messages on here. Like, what people are talking about, the typical, like, I always clean up the streets. He's stopping the bad guys. Robin Hood, except he's not stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. He's just killing